Welcome to this video. Today we are going to be taking a look at the Stygian Fatui Operative, or the Veteran Fatui Operative, for the Stygian 7.1. We're going to be taking a look at the boss stats, the boss mechanics, that there will be no longer a gene cheese, how the shield phase mechanic works, everything to it. We'll be taking a bit of a look on the teams, and I will tell you some advanced tips on how to beat this boss. So here's the HP for Fearless and Dire. And now here will be the resistance to all the elements. So shortly after the fight starts, the boss will gain a shield worth 22.5% of its HP, and you cannot trigger vape or melt reactions, or well, you can trigger them, but the amplifying effect will not take place. Additionally, Favonius weapons or sacrificial weapons cannot be procced upon the shield, such as other abilities, for example Raiden's skill. When you break the shield, the boss will take 22.5% of its max HP as damage. Another mechanic of the shield is that it gives you a lot of bond of life. In fact, it generates bond of life at the start of the shield, and it will continue applying bond of life. So you cannot really heal it off. So if you want to bring sustain, a shielder is often the better way to go than a healer. This is especially bad for characters like Verena, because she relies on the heal of her teammates to generate fanfare for her boss. But it's good for Alekino because that means with infinite bond of life, you are able to attack infinitely without it running out, since the boss keeps on generating bond of life for your active character, or for your whole team in fact. And for Chlorant, that means that you want to use N2E, like 2 normal attacks before pressing E, instead of using 3 normal attacks and then pressing E. So she also benefits from it. The final mechanic that I want to talk about is the corrosion effect. So the boss consumes 2% of its max HP and then summons this wind blade and hits you and applies the corrosion effect, as you can see above your HP bar. If it hits you, it will also regenerate 5% of its max HP. So if it loses 2% of its HP and then generates 5% of its HP back, it will heal back up. So try not to get hit. Additionally, you will lose HP constantly, so if you got hit at the very start, it can be very possible that you die around the end of the run, so this can be very problematic for survival. So keep in mind, try to dodge the first hit. The other hits do not apply this corrosion effect, but always the first hit, this wind blade that the boss summons after reshielding or after shielding for the first time. As for the teams, I will recommend you to use the Stygian.mo website. You can use the advanced filter to search for your character, and you can see which characters or teams are really good at clearing this boss. And as you can see, Alekino with 1-cost teams is doing very well on dire difficulty, and of course there's still Mavica 1-cost here. But other cool characters like Cryo MC or the Sandroni team can work very well. And in fact, I think you can okay, there's a riot clear, that's very nice. But on the next page, there's a never clear. Okay, this was not what I was looking for. And Skirk clears also as well. So a lot of teams clear if they have the sufficient DPS, because its resistance is quite low. And there it is. This is Miser by clear. Yeah. Okay, so now let's move on to the advanced tips. So first of all, I don't have the footage for this, but try not to use a lot of damage or burst damage when the shield is at 1% HP, because the boss will always take 22.5% of the max HP as the damage, so it will not carry over the extra damage you deal after, like the moment you break the shield. So if it has 1% HP, there is no reason to use your Mavica burst on it. So as if you paid attention, I've been scribbling a bit here in paint, and I'm going to explain you the most important mechanic, I'd say, if you want to clear this boss. So I already mentioned multiple times that whenever you break the shield, it loses 22.5% of its HP. So if the HP is below 20%, for example, or if the HP is 22.5%, or if the HP is at 5%, and the boss reshields, if you break the shield, the boss will die. But that automatically also means there's no difference, or there's no reason why we want the boss to have 10% HP when it reshields, or have 22.5% HP when it reshields. So that means that this is basically kind of useless. So we could have had it at 22.5% HP, but we would have killed it the same way when it was at 10% HP after it reshielded. What does this mean? The biggest difference that this is instead of, for example, you can't finish the boss off when it has 10% HP left. So instead of forcing to try to kill the boss during the damage phase, we can try to bring the boss to shield up earlier. So what I mean by that is, instead of staggering the boss and then making it lose, for example, 10% of its HP only, bring it down to 10% HP, which doesn't make a difference because as I said, 20% HP and 10% HP is no difference if the boss reshields, because we have to break the shield anyways. So it's better to actually sometimes start the rotation, like the setup, so the boss doesn't get staggered and does its shield mechanic, so we can deal damage to the shield phase much earlier and actually break the shield and then kill the boss. So this was mostly it for this video. If you want me to take a look at very specific teams, for example, or clears, for example my Zabai run, where I did this stagger technique that I mentioned earlier, and did the shield manipulation, or what to know when using Alekina on this boss with different teams, then make sure to comment down below and then I will take a look at it.